It is July 7, 2025, and this is episode 22. And today I thought we would talk about gun violence, which is issue number one here in Cincinnati right now. Particularly, I wanted to discuss the mayor's appearance on Cincinnati Edition last week, on the 3rd of July, I believe. It was on Lucy May's Cincinnati Edition program. And what I was listening for was a discussion of Act for Cincy. Episode 4, way back in February, we discussed Act for Cincy. And you should probably go back and listen to it if you're interested, but my views haven't changed, except maybe they've gotten a little more firmer or more concrete, and primarily because the mayor has said nothing about Act for Cincy. They invested $3 million on various grants to members of the community or organizations in the community with the purpose of reducing gun violence, and the mayor said nothing about it. And to me, that's a sign that maybe these programs aren't really working, or maybe they were never really violence reduction programs to begin with. But I wound up, well, I did two things. One is I posted on my Facebook a somewhat sarcastic comment about, why is there all this confusion about what causes the crime and what the city's doing about it? And I referenced this diagram that is in the Act for Cincy plan called a causal loop diagram, and it looks scientific, but to me it's pretty much pseudoscience. It doesn't really give the reader exactly what you're supposed to make of this diagram. So I posted that and was a little sarcastic about it. Not too bad, I don't think. But and I don't like to be overly sarcastic or overly cynical, although it's hard to restrain yourself sometimes in Cincinnati. So I posted it on my Facebook, and I do think people ought to be familiar with Act for Cincy and look for themselves in this plan. The plan is 51 pages long, and there's a lot of photos. There's 16 pages that list grant after grant after grant after grant that the program intends to award combined, I think the plan includes more than 60 different external organizations that are getting a share of the pie, so to speak. But the mayor said nothing about it. If you look at the plan, you could probably figure out why, because there's really no way to tie whatever those groups are doing with that money to a reduction in crime. There are things that the police can do that you can point to directly and say, yes, increasing arrests or adding patrols, increasing deterrence, all of those things, those are the traditional ways to reduce crime. Act for Cincy is not a traditional way to reduce crime. It's social services, it's social justice, and I go through all of that in episode 4. But today I wanted to see where we're at on Act for Cincy, given the fact that the mayor kind of ignored the program when he was interviewed last week. Act for Cincy has four different components, I think. There is a law enforcement component, but the law enforcement component is really things that the police force were going to do, whether there was an Act for Cincy or not. And the other three components are grant programs for giving money or awarding money to various nonprofits and other external organizations in the city to carry out various programs. So there's three of them. One is called Boots on the Ground, and it's funded at $830,000, and it awards grants from $10,000 to $25,000. And in an op-ed that I wrote for the Inquirer, which they published today, I say that it ranges from $10,000 for hip hop dance lessons, which is true, to $25,000 to address senior loneliness. So there's 41 grants, and they're all kind of like that. They've got different purposes and different amounts, but it's basically between $10,000 and $25,000 until they've committed their $830,000. And the second one is Safe and Clean. The Safe and Clean Fund. Both Boots on the Ground and Safe and Clean have been around for several years now, but they've just recently moved them under this Act for Cincy program. And Safe and Clean is administered or run, I believe, by the folks that keep Cincinnati beautiful. And they cite, for example, the fact that environmental design can help reduce violence somehow. I didn't really dig into who's getting that money, but the only thing I was able to find is there's 7 groups so far in 2025 that have been funded for $148,000, and the total budget for Safe and Clean, I believe, is $500,000. So they have some more awards to do with that money, I guess. And then the third part of Act for Cincy is called the Human Services Violent Production Fund, or something like that. And that is money that is part of the $8.55 million that the city awards, or the city contracts with the United Way to carry out various programs. And the Human Services Violence Reduction Fund, it also gives out grants. I don't think there's a limit on the amount that a grant could be. They range, I guess, from, I don't know if it was, I think $10,000 for some kind of youth mentoring program, to $127,000 for, I think it was for the West End, the West End neighborhood, or the Community Development Corporation affiliated with the West End or in the West End. So those have a higher range than the Boots on the Ground. And I don't really know how much they've spent so far, but they can spend up to $1.6 million. So to me, the fact that there's nothing to report on those programs, or there's nothing that the mayor thought was significant enough to report, it kind of acknowledges that the programs have not been successful. And we're just sending money out the door and hoping that it has some impact on gun violence. When, as I mentioned in my episode 4, it really comes across as more placating the population than doing anything against gun violence. But that's kind of a broad brush statement. And I did say all this, or put all this, in an op-ed that I submitted to the Inquirer that they published today. That's all in there. And then I added 2 other things. One was I call it a sole source contract, which are not good. It's not good to issue sole source contracts. The idea is that, you want to have your contracts competitive. But this was a sole source, or an earmark, however you want to put it, for a group called Advance Peace. It It was for $275,000, and there's a lot of background there that I don't have time to get into, but it's described as a program that uses formerly incarcerated individuals to kind of mentor youth, and the program has been criticized or is controversial because the program pays stipends for people participating in the program, and it winds up looking like they're getting paid not to commit crimes. And this was written up in the Sacramento Bee and probably a lot of other publications. There's something in the Inquirer about it from a few years ago or a couple years ago. I haven't read that yet, but they're basically paying people not to commit crimes. And if you look at what they've accomplished in other cities, there is a noticeable increase when they stop the program, when they stop paying people not to commit crimes. I believe the crimes have gone up. But anyway, the thing that really bothers me about this program, well, number one, is how they found this organization. I don't know if they found Anna Albee or Anna Albee found them, whether she went to some conference and met them and got sold on the idea, but this is all her doing. And there's really no assessment or evaluation of the program that I could see before the city council votes on it. They just, like Anna Albee says a couple words about it, and okay, well, we'll spend $250,000 on that. And, you know, it's not good government. That's my opinion. If you wanted to have a program like that, and there are several programs like that. You know, I don't know if you remember the old Scared Straight program, where kids would take tours in prisons and talk to people that are incarcerated, and that was intended to have some effect on, you know, kids getting involved in crime. But nothing like that. Nothing that I saw. So that was number 2. So you had Act for Cincy, Advance Peace. And number 3 is something that they plan to spend money on in FY26, which we're now in. And I don't know the exact amount, but what they've done is they've funded United Way, and they decided early this year to have a Human Services Violence Reduction Impact Fund or an Impact Award or something like that. And it's to spend money on a, you know, program that is inventive or, you know, whatever. And I think they're supposed to spend, or they said they could spend up to 10% for this Impact Award. And so early this year, they decided that that they were going to advise United Way of what they want for this Impact Award, and it is food insecurity. They want applications to, or they want people to submit applications for money that deal with food insecurity. But they've tipped their hand. They already want to spend it on delivering groceries to certain neighborhoods because there's food deserts or whatever the case may be. But if they spend 10% of the human services funding for United Way, that'd be $850,000. So it's not entirely clear that they're going to spend that much, but my guess is they are going to. So we have that to look forward to. And again, the fact that the mayor didn't say anything about this was a tell. He's acknowledging that these programs have not been successful. The Cincinnati Enquirer, when they put headlines on my op-ed, they basically pumped it up. Their headline is Cincinnati spent millions on anti-violence programs. Why are bullets still flying? That's not my headline. And then the subcap is Mayor Aftab Purval's silence on Cincinnati's failed anti-violence programs speaks loudest. That's fine, but that's not my headline either. My headline was kind of neutral. It said, simply said that the mayor's, what did it say? My headline was, that I submitted, the mayor's holistic strategy to reduce gun violence is not working. See, they call the Act for Cincy the holistic approach to reducing gun violence. Well, it's not working. It's a good excuse or a good reason to give money out to different nonprofits, but it's not reducing gun violence. And my point in both the op-ed and this and in this broadcast is that if Act for Cincy was succeeding in what it intended to do, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But it hasn't accomplished anything. It hasn't reduced crime. The city can come back and make whatever argument they want to make, but the fact is that we have a problem. We have a big problem right now, and there doesn't seem to be anything in place to fix it, to help it. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot going on. We've got a lot to talk about, different programs and things. I really want to get into this financial freedom blueprint that the city has. It's another one of these progressive programs that you never hear about. They never come back and tell you, we spent, let's stick with boots on the ground. We spent $800 million or $800,000 on boots on the ground, and here's what we got out of it. But the city's very good at setting up these programs and setting them up in such a way that you can't really tell what we got for our money. So we'll see what happens. It's very tiring to deal with all of these spending issues with the city. And believe me, I don't have any problems with social spending. I just am concerned that we do too much of it, and it's going to be a case of double drowning. We're going to spend so much money trying to save people that the city doesn't save itself. And that's one of my big concerns. So anyway, I appreciate everyone tuning in, and we've got a lot of things to work out over the summer break. So we'll be trying to bring you some other content that doesn't necessarily have to do with the day-to-day activities of the city council. So again, I appreciate you tuning in, and until next time.